All right. Well, welcome to Coffee with a Purpose, everyone. And we have two guests with us this morning. Well, not really guests. Coffee with a Purpose regular, Deborah Mitchell, who's currently waiting for a doctor's appointment. So she's going to kind of be in and out. And her aunt, Linda Wade, who was telling me just a moment ago, she's excited to be speaking with us about the Voting Rights Act. Um, We've got a new young member, granddaughter Corinne, who hopefully the Voting Rights Act will be good and intact when she gets to voting age, hopefully long before that as well. Um, let's see. I think Linda, I know you've been with us before, but we'll follow our usual custom of introducing ourselves real quickly, just so you have a sense of who's here. Martin, do you want to come off mute and say good morning?
Oh, hi,
Yeah.
my name is Martin Kessel, and a member of the town meeting and longtime co-founder, I guess, of Coffee with a Purpose, but I'm kind of on retirement right now. People keep calling me, and I try to ignore their calls. But that's about it. So, oh, I forgot to say, as I said last year, we celebrated being a native for 70 years. So 70 seems like a notable number for living a native.
Well,
Yeah.
people are calling you about coffee with purpose. Send them my way, that's for sure. But all right,
Can,
and
can I introduce myself?
eh, sure, Deborah, go ahead.
I'm waiting for a doctor's appointment, but my name is Deborah Mitchell. I'm the founder, executive director of Native for Black Lives Matter. We founded in 2020 when the murder of George Floyd. So we've been doing that for, I don't know, about 6 years now. Linda joined me last year. She's a treasurer. And we also have the Black Lives Matter grassroots organization. So that's who I am, and I'm glad to be here at Coffee with a Purpose. Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. Great. And then moving on, how's that McDonough clan doing? Want to come off mute and let us know who you all are?
So I'm Lane, Kirsten McDonough, and Corinne Cardinal, our granddaughter. And Kirsten and I have been here for, let's see, 37 years. Corinne has only been here 10 months. So, she's
But
got a
she's a
little.
townie. That makes
She's a
sense.
townie. That's right. She's a townie. We're not. We're transplants.
Right.
So, but yeah. So enjoy. I'm so happy that you guys do this. This is great. And even though I keep giving you a hard time about the acronym, I'm just
That's
having a
okay,
good
Lee.
time.
We know you love us. Cindy.
Good morning, Deborah and Linda. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Cindy Bates. I've lived in Natick for coming up on 6 years this fall, maybe more. I'm a steward of a trail, and I uh, keep Natick beautiful by picking up trash, and I sing in sound and spirit.
Great. Thanks, Cindy. Dee Dee.
Hi, I'm Dee Dee Bergeron, and I have to ask Kirsten Lane a question. How old is Alicia?
He'll
Up
be
here.
35 next
Okay,
month.
I moved to Natick right around the time Alicia was born. So I had to ask. And I left for a while, but I came back and I am a retired teacher. I taught kindergarten and first grade in Wayland for 34 years and retired last year and have been super involved through stuff at the First Congregational Church and then also in the Natick Town Democratic Committee. I do a lot of state politics stuff like the convention and things like that. And currently, my big thing is I'm doing a lot out in Burlington with the Burlington protests.
Hmm, thank you. Cool. Brinley?
Good morning. Oh,
Morning.
sorry. I work from my phone, so that's why I don't usually put my picture because I don't usually hold my phone up to my face. So I thought I'd say good morning. Um, uh, I'm glad you guys are here this morning. I've been in town for a little while now. I don't know, 6 this year, something like that. Just do stuff around town. I'm glad you guys are here. Nice to see you this morning.
Thanks, Brinley. Catherine?
Catherine Coughlin, currently Natick Select Board, formerly ZBA, and I've been dabbling with Keep Natick Beautiful. So I keep a picker and some bags in the back of my car. My schedule doesn't allow me the fun 2-hour blocks, but I've been slowly working my way through West Natick when I have 15 minutes or so. And really glad to be here. Very glad for this group.
Thanks, Catherine. Donna?
Good morning. Glad to be here. And I am not quite awake yet. It's a lazy Monday morning for me, but I'm always glad to be with this group. And I've learned a lot from your discussions. So thanks.
Good to have you, Donna. Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah. I am a retired geologist. I do a lot of stuff around town and active at First Congregational.
And I'm Doug. I moderate this group. And as you can see, I'm a white guy, and therefore I personally have not faced all of the risks that have been going on that so many aspects of our population have. So, Linda, we're really happy to have you here in talking to us about the Voting Rights Act and how important it is.
Well, thank you for having me with Coffee with a Purpose. And good morning, everyone. My name's Linda Wade, and I'm with Natick for Black Lives Matter, grassroots in Boston Metro. And I live in Somerville, so I come to you guys with Coffee with a Purpose. And I hang around Natick, though.
It's a good place to hang around.
Because of Deb. But I want to say good morning to everyone. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the Voting Rights Act and what it means to us today. But right now, I want to give you a little bit of history of what happened in 1965. If we can all go back then. In 1965, the Voting Rights Act was passed by Lyndon Baines Johnson, President of the United States. And during that time, President Johnson established Medicare. It was an escalation of the Vietnam War with the enactment of Rolling Thunder that brought combat troops into Vietnam. I hope everybody can remember that. Those were the first combat troops that came into Vietnam. And the act boasted thousands of people to march on Washington for the anti-war movement back then. And in the streets, Malcolm X was assassinated back then in New York City. And the Watts riot in the LA neighborhood boiled and seared for 6 days with 34 dead. Bloody Sunday happened when people marched against poll taxes. One being literacy was attacked and beaten by state troopers. And this action was the central reason for the Voting Rights Act that was signed into law 4 months later. And I do remember that Bloody Sunday. I was in, pardon me. Just a minute, please.
That's all right. I'll wait for Linda to get back. I was complimenting her on that mural that you can now see a little bit more of before we got going. That says, "Black women are divine."
I'm back.
All right.
Oh, sorry about that. Oh, gosh. And company. Okay. So the action was the central reason behind the Voting Rights Act that Bloody Sunday. And, it was a terrible Sunday. And President Johnson happened to be watching TV, saw that action by the state troopers, and immediately worked on getting the legislation for the Voting Rights Act, which is signed in August. And the most important part of the Voting Rights Act was Section 5, and that is pre-clearance. And that was a requirement that states and counties with a history of racial discrimination to get federal approval before making any changes in their voting and requirements. States and counties had to submit proposed changes to the Department of Justice to prove that changes would not be discriminated against based on race. And thousands of cases were blocked because of that particular Section 5. And until Shelby versus Holder, that was 2013, the county in Alabama sued the United States saying that the pre-clearance was outdated and has 40-year-old data that was no good for 2013. Anyway, Shelby County won that case. And that right there with pre-clearance was the end of the Voting Rights Act as far as well, there was no jurisdiction for the subject of for the precedent anymore. I don't know if I'm that clear about what's going on here, but I hope it is. And yeah, well, just to talk about that, and pre-clearance was I'm sorry, I'm just a bit.
That's okay. You can collect your thoughts.
Yeah, just take a minute.
Yeah, let me collect my thoughts. Yeah. Yeah. Well, anyways.
Good. Just read your paper. I'm back.
Did and anyways, pre-clearance. Before then, states couldn't make any changes as far as voting rights, you know, and they had to prove that racial discrimination was part of their basis of changing the laws and of the Voting Rights Act. After pre-clearance, now voting rights are no longer in effect. Counties and states can make any changes that they want as far as voter ID, voter poll taxes are again legal and able to do that again. So they could say that, can you read this paper? And if you're not literate, you'll be just excluded from voting. So that's what a poll tax basically is. And, they used to ask people to first recite the first preamble of the Constitution. And if you couldn't do that, then you were excluded. And they mainly asked Black people to do that. So, of course, they were excluded from voting. And but that's the main part of what the Voting Rights Act is. And that Shelby versus Holder in 2013 is what we're talking about today. People back right now in 2026 thought that the Voting Rights Act was abolished back in May of 2026, but it wasn't. It was done in 2013. It was the media that and people that were outraged at what happened, that now gerrymandering is happening in many counties and states, and now that it's legal, they can get away with just about anything they want. And that's politicians that are right now who have the power to do these, are making the changes. And their own state courts in Alabama and Texas and all around the South are now making these changes as far as state IDs mainly. And Texas, you have to have a picture ID. So that was the main thing that happened in 2013. And Texas, they changed from just a address proof, birth certificate or whatever, to a picture ID. So you cannot vote without that. And so anyways, ask me some questions. I think I'll be.
I guess I've got a couple, and again, I'll kind of apologize. I come from too much ignorance born by white privilege, but
right. But Doug, before you ask, I want to chime in my little section.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So we're talking about the Voting Rights Act, right?
Yeah.
And last time, Donna McKenzie had spoke about it on behalf of, I believe, right, Donna, with Native for Black Lives Matter. But this is so. So what I'm trying to add is about I don't know if Linda talked about it, but redistricting and
Yes.
what's going on. Did you want to talk about that quickly, Linda, before we open the floor
Yes,
for questions?
yes. Districting and gerrymandering is now legal in all states, because there is no one to challenge. The Department of Justice cannot challenge anybody's um, right to redistrict and make changes in areas and gerrymandering. I said that they can the opponents can make a complaint, but of course, if it has to go through the courts, it's going to take time, and of course, the elections and whatever uh, politicians can
Yeah,
do that.
correct. And some elections were halted, um, and while the redistricting was, and maybe some people know more about that. Also, the text that we Linda has read is Carol Anderson's "One Person, No Vote," and I believe everybody in Black Lives Matter previously had got a copy of that. So you can open the floor now for questions, Doug. And we don't
Okay.
have all the answers, but it could be more like a discussion.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was actually going to just suggest that because I think lots of folks on this call also have additional information. I guess the question that I was going to put up there really was, so back in 2013, this case, did it, um, I assume this started local and went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and that was what was kind of the death knell. Is that the case? And was there, um, is there any easy to understand or state synopsis of what the court said as to why they felt it could be struck down in this way? Wait, good morning,
Linda,
Angie.
Yes,
do you want to answer that question for him?
I'm answering it right now. Yes, I said Alabama was the place where it began at, and it was Shelby versus Holder in 2013, and the reasoning was that they had 40-year-old data, voting data, that was deemed old and unworthy in the courts, and so they dropped that and said that part of the plank of the Voters' Rights Act was demolished, and that was one of the reasons.
And what was that data? Was that just like census data? I mean, what was it data about?
Yes, it was. I'm sorry, it was census data, voting poll data, and people, of course, moved around and moved in different areas and everything else like that. So they deemed that was outdated.
A shame they couldn't just update the data and keep the act.
No, they did.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question. Well, Linda, how does that affect Linda, how does that affect today? It was gutted more today. Could you please
Well,
explain
it was
that?
gutted back in 2013, and it's not more today because, like I said, the southern states have been making these changes already, and they've been doing it for the past 10 years of redistricting and moving poll areas and revamping counties and everything else. They've been making those changes all along.
Yes, I understand, but the Supreme Court came down with a decision. What was that decision? Recent decision.
They totally, the decision was that they could actually do that, because they removed the Section 5 of the pre-clearance of the Voting Rights Act, and that was right there. Says that the states and counties had to submit proposed changes to the Department of Justice to prove that changes would not discriminate based on race. And them doing that, of course, took time, money, effort, and so all that combined still allowed them to make the changes regardless.
I suppose one could argue that even
Thank you.
if pre-clearance were still in place, given this Justice Department, they would approve horrific things anyway. But
yeah,
were you about to ask something or say something, Sarah?
I don't remember who made the comment a couple seconds ago, but this issue of making it harder just to get to a place to vote, is that a piece of this as well? I mean, I think about here in Natick, we have multiple places in one town, depending on what precinct you live in, but you don't have to go far here to vote. And I remember hearing about places where a whole county might have two places to vote, and that just seemed, that is beyond crazy.
That has happened in Arizona. In Arizona, they had 2021. I believe it was called Ramovich versus the Democratic National Committee. They basically said you couldn't vote out of precinct, and your vote wouldn't be counted if you went to another precinct to record your vote, and whatever legally, it would be thrown out. So Arizona kept that law on their books, and also, it's a crime for anyone other than family member or caregiver or the postal worker to collect or distribute or assign ballot and bring it in for recording or anything. So it's a crime if you're not a family member or a caregiver or the postal worker. You cannot. So they'll throw that ballot out. So Arizona has made it just even more harder. And not just Arizona, that's the rest of the country also, as far as that was the Democratic National Committee challenged that and lost. So that stays in place, and it also makes it harder for anyone to go to a voting place or poll or even the mailbox. You can't even, it's a crime to even put the if you're found out not to be a person that's not a family member, that vote will not be counted. And they've made it very clear that this is how the voting situation now and will continue to be in Arizona and the rest of the country too. It's also part of the national part of the Supreme Court decision.
That's the part that I think I'm not understanding is I get that if pre-clearance was struck down, then it kind of allows all 50 states to just do whatever they want, which is horrible enough. But are there new horrible standards getting set for the rest of the country?
Yes. For the rest of the
How does that happen?
Well, that's the Democratic National Committee challenged it. In Arizona, is I guess the plaintiff that wanted to make sure that these standards were countrywide and wide, and became part of the Voting Rights Act, an amendment that they made in 2021. And from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is an actual fact that is still on the books, that has not changed.
So yes, this can definitely be a discussion as others have other relevant information from their own knowledge about this topic.
Yeah,
Please
I do.
weigh in as well. Yeah, Deborah.
I have some questions about what happened in, I think it was it Louisiana, where they stopped the election to redraw and also Tennessee, where they kicked out the black representatives. So all of this is to dilute black power, black
Yes,
political power.
yes. And if it's challenged by the Department of Justice, it has to be proved to be discriminatory, and they count on the time, like I said, and the of course all this happens during the time of the vote, and so they bring it to the courts, and of course courts take it up, and it could take years before they make a decision on those cases. And so those things will continue to happen until the John Lewis, which has been in John Lewis voting rights amendment, has been in the House for the past 5 years, and it has not passed the Senate. The Senate has not passed it. And until that happens, pre-clearance will still continue.
And so what's the essence of what the amendment would do, the Lewis?
The Lewis amendment would make pre-clearance um, uh, back on the books again.
It would restore that.
Would restore it. And the main part of that is to be, fair to all people as far as being able to vote and change and how redistricting and gerrymandering is being handled these days. He saw that back just before he died, that this was happening, and try to make some changes back then. And so it still sits in the House, this bill.
So why wasn't it passed, Linda? Why?
Well, the Senate had brought it up, and they have not. They won't hear it. So it still sits in the House.
Is there a limit for how long it can sit approved by the House and not approved by the Senate? Like, would it expire after some amount of time and then have to be reapproved by the House as well?
That's a good question. I don't know that if it was, but it's been in the Senate for 4.5 years now. I mean, in the House for 4.5 years, and brought to the Senate without debate. So it still sits in the House. I don't know about an expiration time.
Is there a specific, I know like when we had the ACLU people, they were able to tell us like specific websites to go to that would give us information to help us write to our legislators. Is there a similar thing that you're familiar with for the John Lewis Act?
Local, all I know is your local congressman and your local Senate. Your local senators that are be able to, that's the only people that you can write to on this act, that we can write to and see if these things could be brought up again, and get a hearing at least in the Senate, because that right there would make the difference in as far as pre-clearance back on the books. But the local senators, not local senators, if your Senate and your congressmen are the people, your congress people are the ones that you would write to.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go right ahead, Dee. Yeah.
So I'd like to point out that a lot of people think that because we're in Massachusetts, it's like, oh, we're safe here. And there are lots of attempts even here in Massachusetts to make it difficult for people to vote. And a lot of what's done here is by intimidation. So, Randy and I have worked on and misinformation. Randy and I have like been volunteers for well over a decade now. And on election day, it is very common to get reports of people going into minority communities, to underrepresented communities, big white men with very intimidating posture and cameras like hanging out near voting areas to make it difficult because people get nervous and anxious and then they choose not to vote. Or we also got reports of misinformation being given to students about their right to vote in if they originally were somewhere else, even if they like they wanted to vote in Massachusetts, they registered in Massachusetts, and then they were told, oh no, even though you live here and you've registered here, it's not valid. You have to go home to vote. Things like that. So we need to be alert here in Massachusetts too, because the groups that it's the underrepresented communities and it's the young people who tend to be more progressive in their voting, who
Yes.
are being, sort of they try to keep them from the polls.
Yes.
Hmm. Horrible situation all the way around here.
Yes. I think without pre-clearance, that's it's a dead letter. That's what they call it. And as far as their rights of voters, the rights of voters in the southern states have already made redistricting and gerrymandering very possible, and intimidation at the polls very, very prominent, being able to get away with it. And that's the thing. That's something that we all have to think about. But we have to do something about, as far as getting the John Lewis law back on the books, at least back. I mean, on into the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
That's the important thing, because without that, there is nothing else. There is nothing else. The Congress had made any other provisions, that pre-clearance is gone. There's nothing else no other formula for any discriminatory actions against any cause or polls and voting places or anything else like that. And that's mainly the gist of what I'm trying to say. Is there is nothing right now, and I mean, it sounds ominous, but it is. It's what it is.
Brindley, you had put something in the chat about just kind of read state exchange questions. Under what rule do bills, et cetera, die in Congress? Is that to this topic of like how long can this kind of live on only half approved?
Yeah, because that's actually something that's always interested me as well. And I find it to be an incredibly hard thing to find information on. From the couple of things that I put in there, it sounds like it's that unpassed things Congress can't be beholden to previous sessions if it hasn't made it all the way through into law. So just because they pass it doesn't make it law. But I'm not sure that there's actually a law that says it. I think it's more just a precedent that every 2 years when Congress changes, that things that didn't make it all the way into being a law probably have to restart over again. But again, it's really hard to totally find a law on this. I've searched this before and haven't. So anybody else who knows, please do. But my understanding of what I keep reading is that Congress can't be beholden to previous sessions.
Yes.
They say sessions specifically, which meaning is the 2-year term before Congress members change and get reelected.
An alarm bell of its own. If a researcher like you really can't find the information, God help anybody else trying to understand what's going on. Were you
Well,
yeah.
I understand that John Lewis bill has been in session for 2 sessions of Congress already, and debated in committee, and then been to the vote and back, sent to the Senate again. And and still they have not picked it up, and they will not debate it or hear it. So that
would restoring Democratic majorities in both the House and the Senate, I mean, obviously would go some way, but presumably that's not the full answer anyway, right? If we still have a very conservative court, or
very conservative court that has struck down the measure of fairness and anti-discriminatory actions against people in places and folks who are marginalized and without a vote, without a voice, and these things can continue on now, just as willy-nilly as they want to be, as far as the time is concerned. But right now, seems like this administration is winning action after action. But this action actually happened during the Biden administration, and people had really picked up on that until the changes were made in redistricting and just gerrymandering, and the vote in counties started to get prominence in the country. And this is why we're hearing, because of the midterm elections and right now, and what the impact is right now on pre-clearance.
what's the realistic expectation now? This is a question for anybody about how the midterms will turn out. At various times I've heard, well, current conditions are so horrific, clearly the Democrats will sweep in both cases. And then you hear the exact opposite of, partly because of all of these restrictions on voting. No, it's not going to happen. What would the betting person say at this point?
I generally am an optimistic person, but for right now, I see nothing down the pike. And so I have a very pessimistic view on just the whole vote situation and how the midterms will turn out and how the turnout for these elections. So it can't go by me because
yeah. Dee Dee, how about from your Democratic committee work? What's the inside scuttlebutt if you're you're on mute at the moment, but there you go.
So, a lot of the stuff I'm involved in is statewide, not
Sure.
federal, but there's a sense that it's very iffy, like what's going to happen in November. That there is very little movement on the side of people who just sort of refuse to see what's happening. It's like it's just much easier for them to sit in their like world that doesn't allow that they aren't, there's not a lot of acknowledgement or movement. There's so many people who are saying, look what's happening, look what's happening, look what's happening. And yet we're still, you would think like the whole country would be out in the streets saying this is ridiculous because so many people at every level are being hurt, and yet it's not changing as fast as you would expect. People are sort of holding on to their beliefs even if all the evidence out there goes against their beliefs. So it's not completely negative, but it's also not like, well, things are so bad, this is a clear win in November. That's not the sense at all.
Besides all of the disasters that the gutting of the Voting Rights Act has caused, back in the previous presidential election, with the stolen election and all this, that there was all the issue raised about the certification of votes process. What are people's current views on the street about, even beyond who's allowed to vote, how likely might it be that election commissioners don't do their work properly in certifying? Is that seen as a significant risk now, more than in the past?
I see it as a significant change in how voting will be in national elections. I think people will finally understand the idea of why and how come this happened, and how come I didn't know about it. Just like Dee Dee said, that these things will play out as they will play out. I don't see things coming down, you know, in the future, as being anything but not a total disaster, but clearly problems at the polls. I see problems at the polls. I see people not being able to go to their local polls. I see people finding out that their district has changed. I find that people will have to travel, many more miles just to go and vote. Those votes will not count if they can't get them in themselves. And that's what I see coming down the pike as far as the voting commission is concerned. I don't see them having any pure power to make any changes or any changes that they could possibly make. I think is probably moot. And but that's it.
Hmm.
I should know the answer to this question, and I don't. I know there has been a movement here in Massachusetts to get a question on the ballot to require voter ID. Um, I know the only reason I'm even this much aware of it is I was approached and asked to sign the petition. And generally, like if a candidate is running for office, unless I know some specific horrible thing about them, I will sign their papers because I feel like people should have a choice of who to vote for. But this was one of the few times I said, no, I won't sign it. I've worked as a poll worker and I think our protections are solid. But I was just wondering if anybody knows what's up with that.
So, well, I know that. Well, as far as Massachusetts, I don't know. If anything will come through as far as a voter, I mean, an ID or picture ID, just like Texas had done. That requires very solidly picture ID in order to vote. Otherwise, you cannot vote. That happened just hours after the pre-clearance had changed back in 2013. They had made that very clear that voter ID totally necessary. And that's happening in other states also, that voter IDs are going to be a part of what their fabric of voting will be.
Cindy, you raised your physical hand. You want to chime in?
Yeah. This ID thing, it's very interesting. I think 2 years ago, Natick implemented a system where if you have a driver's license and you present it, they just scan you right in. And I see it as a little bit of a, I don't know, maybe a sneaky way of people like, well, I already bring my ID because they like it that way. But frankly, my experience is that it's slower to get in and vote when I have to present my ID because they have to, I don't know. It's like I used to walk in and say, to the right precinct, Lincoln Street, number 5, apartment 3, and boom, they flip to the page, boom, done. Off you go and vote. And
You
now
can still do
it's a
that.
little more tedious.
Yeah, that
And it seems a little bit not sneaky is not the right word, but kind of coming in under from a back door. Like,
mhm.
okay, 90% of the people are already presenting an ID because we're asking them because we're telling them it's faster and or better or something.
Well,
And so most people will just say, okay, whatever.
Well,
But
just
I also wanted to ask about the question you asked at the very beginning, Doug, about this, what the Supreme Court said about why the Rights Act couldn't stand anymore, about the data being old. And if that was if there were other reasons that can't be overcome, but it would seem that that could be overcome, whatever the data is, let it speak for itself. And I was wanting to just pursue that a little bit too. Okay, that's all.
Yeah, I will say from just, sort of in response to the question about um, the ID in Natick, when when we went through the training, when they first got those, the issue was they went to a digital database as opposed to the paper books that we all knew and loved for so many years. They're very explicit in the training. You may not ask somebody to give their license. It's pretty clear from the poll worker standpoint that this is, if somebody wants to do it, that's fine, but we are absolutely told you may not ask somebody to do this.
yeah. So I see multiple hands up, including clerk or
I'm not saying
precinct.
that they do ask for it. I'm just saying that it's being presented
Mhm,
as a better option without anybody saying anything.
mhm.
But so maybe I'll go back and refuse and say you have to look me up in the book. But I think that might take longer now because
Well, again,
that,
you shouldn't have to refuse. If someone at a poll worker is suggesting that you provide your license, they're not doing it
no, no,
properly.
it just whatever. I'm just trying to be the easiest on the poll worker. And so maybe Sarah, let me know. Like, is it just as easy still to use the book?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
they just punch in your name on the
yeah, you
computer.
got a little thing like an iPad and you put in your now I can't remember, it's switch. One used to be name first and then address and the other's the other way, and I
Yeah.
can't remember,
I,
but it's easy either way.
yeah, Martin, I'm sure has the more detailed information,
Martin is.
but we have multiple hands up. So let's go to Donna first and then Martin. Donna?
I just wanted to respond to that, having worked at the polls. And I think our poll workers need more training if there are poll workers who are asking people for their license, because that's out of line. And
Right.
it's just as easy to put in somebody's name. And maybe it's laziness. Maybe you've got some poll workers who
All right.
don't want
I
to
need to
do it.
clarify. I need to clarify. I don't think I was
Can I
asked,
finish?
but well, I just want to say for myself, I was not asked. I'm not saying that anybody did anything wrong. So just to clarify, I was not asked to present my ID.
Thanks, Cindy.
Okay, I think it's a concern though, because I don't think it's an effort on anybody's part to slip in picture IDs as part of the voting process. And I, ironically, I think there are more conservative members of our community who are suspicious about having their driver's license scanned because they don't know. I mean, I can't even tell you the numbers of people who ask, "What are you doing with this data? Where's this data on my license information going?" And blah 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 blah. I mean, I found, ironically, more concerns by conservative voters on what's happening if they have their license scanned. But my point about, maybe there needs to be more training stands because what happened with the vote count in the previous election, I mean, those ballots are so carefully separated out when there are write-in names, and it doesn't sound like that happened at all. So I mean, it's no failure. People have busy lives, and we can't train people enough. And this is really important stuff. So I think you bring up, a good point. So thank you.
Yeah. Martin, come up.
Yeah, so I'm speaking as someone who's been a warden in the polls for about 10 years or so, and a regular clerk before that. My experience, and for about half of that time, we've had the those scanning machines that have scanned licenses. My experience is the opposite, that people really like them. The voters like them particularly. Poll workers, they could go one way or the other. Their poll workers are happy to do it the old way. They're used to calling out the street name, the street, et cetera, that whole protocol, which just takes a lot of time. The scanning is much faster, clearly, and people, mainly my comment is the fact that people are reacting positively to those. So when people have the chance of giving the license, they really flock to that option that I've seen. They seem happy, takes less time, and more particularly, it's good for and particularly foreign people with foreign names, where the name is very difficult to spell, and people could be spending, several minutes trying to go back and forth with the letters of the name to try to get the spelling of the name right, and that's all eliminated with the license. So the fact that clearly people need to be trained, I haven't, in my opinion, in my experience, haven't seen voted people at the polls that have been mistrained, that have in any way pressured people to provide their ID. That may happen. There's no question that may happen, and that needs to be guarded against. We need to have kind of little monitors that check that out to make sure people are doing it the right way, because when it's used properly, I think it's a great benefit to the poll workers in particular, and even more so to the voters. So that's my experience.
Thanks, Martin. Yeah, and I see Cindy shaking her head. Yeah, I think we may be. I think it's a sign of how important fair and open voting is to us here. That any even hints that
I
that we're
misspoke.
not doing it properly, it just raises our hackles. And I think Cindy's trying to say, no, no, no,
I
that's
misspoke.
not what happened.
Could I just clarify? I realize
Yeah.
that it's been a while since I've actually been to the polls, and what you used to do was walk in and say your street, your number, and then if it was an apartment. And now they have to type in your name. And so clearly using your ID is if you go and say they want to know your name first, they have to type it all in and find you. Whereas the ID is much quicker. I totally agree. So now I'm doing the ID because it's quicker. But the old way with the street first and the book, for me, was really nice. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, just a minor nit. They don't actually have to type in your entire name. They have to type in enough of it. It's one of these systems where, as you type the name, once it keeps displaying things that match that, and eventually you get enough characters that and if you have now said your entire name and street, your record is appearing. It's just a quick way to get to what used to be physically in the book. We got Brindley and then Dee Dee.
So I just wanted to say that I put the link in the chat, that there is a fantastic website on MassGov that gives ballot initiative information. And for our 2026 ballot initiative, there are many voting rights petitions that have been certified, meaning they've collected the signatures that they've needed. And so they are certified and will most likely appear on the ballot. And several of them are for voting rights. There's a group called MA for Voting Rights or something like that. Seems like the spokesperson for that is somebody named Jeff Cohen. I did not put their link in there because I think that they are trying to gut our voting rights personally with these petitions. So I don't like to spread their website around. Anyone else that wants it can Google it. But it does look like they have the petitions to put on the ballot, that it would be required to show your ID. And then let's see, it says if you don't have your photo ID, They did amend it. It seems like you would then have to sign an affidavit that says you are who you are. So it won't actually prevent you from voting on the day of. So I'm not really sure. I need to do a little more homework with all of these, but they did all get their number of signatures required. According to the MassGov website. And one of them is saying that mail-in ballots would be required to send a photocopy of your license to prove that you filled it out, which seems really problematic to me and extremely inequitable. But again, I would need to do more homework on it. But I did put the link in there. So if people want to do their own homework, the links are in there and you can see what the status is and what they actually are. If you click the second link under them, it gives you the summary, which is what would appear. Summary is what it would appear, when we get our little red book in the fall that tells us all of the ballot initiatives and what they are. The summary is what would appear in there. It's what we would read as to what the ballot measure is.
Thanks for that, Binley. I see Dee Dee's up next, and Dee Dee, as you're speaking, if you could explain, I had seen that you would put in the chat some links on how to get more information on how to speak to your local politicians about both the John Lewis Act, but also the SAVE Act. If you could kind of elaborate on what the SAVE Act is as opposed to John Lewis, but as well as whatever you wanted to add right now.
Okay, so it just happened that one of the John Lewis Act sites I found was also talking about the SAVE Act. And I have to be honest that I'm not exactly sure where that is. I think that I know it has not passed yet. I'm not sure if it's dead or if it still has the possibility. If somebody else knows, because I have been very busy the last, like this has been such a big thing the last year. But the SAVE Act basically changes the ID, not only voter ID, not only do they want to have voter ID, but they want to change the rules around voter registration ID use. So in the past, you could use your ID. Now your ID has to, if you're re-registering, not to vote, but to register to vote, your ID has to match your birth name. So if you are, in particular, if you're a woman who has gotten married and changed your name, you now need to have additional documents. And for a large majority, or maybe a large majority, particularly of white middle class and upper class people, you would have easy access to those documents. But there's a lot, it's like your passport, your birth certificate. If you've moved like I have, like when I wanted my birth certificate for something, I'm having to like go back and forth with Texas. Randy's from Minneapolis. We don't all live in the place we were born that we can just easily go down and get it. Passports are expensive and take a long time to get. So by changing those rules, it really impacts in particular, again, people who don't have that kind of time or money and women, because men don't usually change their names when they get married. So it's not an issue for most men. So that's the SAVE Act, which as far as I know, and somebody can correct me, that still has been voted down each time. Um, the um, the the links I put in were easy ways rather than having to like look up your congressperson's number and call them and think of what to say. They give you a way to easily either find it or just send an email directly from the site. They give you information and even scripts if you want, like if you're nervous about making that kind of phone call or you're not sure exactly how to do it, there's a script like this is an example of what you could do or say if you call. So um, that's the links I put in. The thing I wanted to mention, and now I have two things because I have a response to some of this discussion that we've just been having. I feel very strongly that no matter how much easier it seems, sorry about my light.
It's just the sun coming in the window, probably behind you,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like the top of my head is missing. This, I think that even though it might seem simpler, easier as people are less familiar with names coming from different cultural backgrounds, that kind of thing, it has to be a no. It has to be a no because it easier for some of us, it disenfranchises great numbers of people. So we just have like you need your ID to register. You shouldn't also need your ID to what it's like, like I don't have to show my ID for something that I've already used my ID to register for. Like that's just wrong and it disenfranchises people. So that I have very strong feelings about that and other people could feel differently, but that's my take on that. And here in Massachusetts, one thing I wanted to bring up is Bill Galvin is working very, very hard at getting same-day voting registration passed. It's going to be on the ballot this fall. It's really important to support it. Bill Galvin, people had a lot of complaints about like, oh, he's one of those old people. He's been around forever. But actually, he has strengthened Massachusetts voting laws so much that what we've been told is that other states have been coming to Massachusetts to meet with him, other secretary of states, to work with him on like how to make their voting rights stronger in their states. And the same day registration is one of the really important things that he's trying to get passed before he retires. So I would ask everyone to look into that and read that part carefully and if possible vote yes on that when you see it on the ballot.
Thanks for that, Dee Dee. And actually, that comment of other state election officials coming to Massachusetts, you know, somebody said earlier, maybe, in Massachusetts, we think we don't have to worry because it's already in a relatively good shape. But we should always try to make it as strong as possible because if it can then be a model for other states to follow at some point when the pendulum swings, that will be an incredibly valuable resource. Donna, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to what um, Brinley said. If there's any question about a ballot, it become the voter is asked to cast a provisional ballot, and that's put in a separate envelope, kind of a secret envelope, and it's not included in the ballot box. And it is later determined if, in fact, that person is a legally registered voter on election day and if their vote counts. And I don't know what the procedure is for determining that. I suspect it takes a long time to determine the validity of these provisional ballots. So maybe Martin has been working as a warden for a long time. Maybe he can give us a quick comment on provisional ballots. But um, you don't want to have people in the situation of having to cast provisional ballots.
Martin?
They're virtually never used. Yeah, there's such a pain in the neck to do those that maybe one person, maybe two people per election bothers to do those. And I don't know what happens with the follow-up. It's not a really good solution. It's like, okay, we say we're doing all this research to see if that person is a real voter, but it's not a very practical solution. So I don't have a lot of faith in that particular solution.
Cindy had put in the chat something that I know I had touched on with a couple of my questions of just going all the way back to Linda's presentation and that the 2013 case struck down voting rights based on this stale data. Does anybody have more information about, is it the case that like the ship has sailed that sure, we could have updated the data, but at this point, so much ground has been passed that even updated data wouldn't help? Or are there any efforts to at least get fresh data, as I think you said, Cindy, so it could speak for itself or something? And it may just be that nobody really has information about that. I guess maybe that's not deemed as the most effective strategy to address this. Yeah. Huh. Well, Often we have Coffee with a Purpose speakers who talk about some wonderful nonprofit work they're doing, and everybody feels that it's really hopeful discussion. We've got all great people on this morning, but unfortunately, we're really facing a pretty glum situation. I wish there was some more optimistic news to share on where is the battle going well. Dee Dee, are you going to rescue me and tell me something like that, or you have something else to add?
Well, I mean, I think there are some clear takeaways. Like there is an act currently, being considered in the House and in the Senate, and we have voices, and we can, we can be urging our own senators and representatives to, address that act. We can be writing to the president of the Senate and and the Speaker of the House and saying, bring this to the floor. We can be telling all of our friends in other states to, that's a really big takeaway. There's an act already in Congress. Like, we don't have to invent this.
Yeah.
And, you know, the second sort of takeaway is to be vigilant about what is happening in Massachusetts, because there are groups trying to erode some of the rights here in Massachusetts. So far, we feel pretty safe, and in general, we're in pretty good shape, but that's it starts local. A lot of this stuff starts very local. So pay attention to what's going on in, your school committee and your select board and your local elections, because the way that people get to positions of power are by going into the, sort of the startup, the local stuff first, and then they get known, and then they get more followers, and then they move up. And we need to make sure that it's people who represent what we believe in at the local level, so that we're not suddenly looking at state and federal level people who are like, oh my gosh, like, I live in this state and they don't represent me. um and then the last thing I wanted to say is, and this might feel like a really outdated thing to be paying attention to, but continue to pay attention to what happens with voting machines, because Diebold's, I don't know how many people remember Diebold and all the stuff that, right? The problems with the machines, they sold themselves a long time ago to another company. It's called Electronic Systems, or Electronic Election Systems, or something like that. Um, and there are still issues. Like, what they say is happening is not true. For example, they say that, they've got super protection around all their machines, and yet investigations have shown that they're using modems that can be hacked, and not even with that much difficulty. They like easily hacked modems, and um like, to send information. And if you have a written record of the vote, you can go back and check. But when the entire vote is in a voting machine, once that's corrupted, it's really difficult to make sure you can. So it's very difficult to prove the vote. Whereas, with a paper vote, and like here in Massachusetts, we vote on paper, it goes into a machine to be counted, but those votes are saved.
Mhm.
And if there was a discrepancy, and I think one just happened in our town recently, right? And they were able to go back and actually physically count the votes. That's what we need all over this country, um, to make sure that the vote's not being corrupted. So that's something that I don't think there's currently a lot going on with, but it's something to pay attention to. Like, if you start to hear things in our state in particular, where we have more control, if you start to hear things like, oh, it's so much cheaper, it's going to save that state and the town money to move to this only, machine voting system. Like, don't be tricked by that. Like, that sometimes the money is worth it. But I
Thanks.
would say the two takeaways are: go out there and, like, find a way to contact someone about the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and two, to be very vigilant about what's coming up in our next, federal. I mean, our primaries in the fall, and and I'm going to put in a little plug for Ed Markey here. Um,
Yeah.
Most progressive, one of the most progressive senators we have out there, and very active, very vibrant, still very healthy, and he has a lot of agendas that are currently going through Congress that And he's being challenged by someone who is presenting themselves as younger, more vibrant, and progressive as well. And that person does not have his history doesn't prove that. His history proves him to be conservative, a pretty conservative Democrat. So we don't need to change to a less progressive Democrat at this moment in our Congress. That's my last.
Thanks for all that, Dee Dee. I see Donna and then Brinley. Donna? Oh, there you go.
I want to second some of what Dee Dee said, and I want to add too that this is all very depressing. I find myself depressed. I'm living in a country with a president that lies all the time, where lying has become normalized, where so much of what is happening is just wrong. Um, and I'm not a conservative Christian, but I don't also like people going out canvassing on a Sunday morning, coming to my house on a Sunday morning when, believe it or not, I'm not part of the unchurched, even though I'm very, very progressive. I go to church. So there just are many things that bother me that I find really disturbing about all of these sides. But I'm remembering what John Lewis said, that we don't have the right to be in despair or to live in despair about this. We have to keep moving, and we have to move forward for the sake of our children. And we live in an incredibly racist world at this point right now. I don't know what it would be like to be Black in this town. You can't hide from your race, right? I mean, it's not like you can pretend to be something else. And this administration has done everything it can to sort of uh, put to the side Black people in this country. It's really terrible.
Erase.
So
Try
I
to.
want to say that Juneteenth is coming, and Natick, we're celebrating on Saturday, the 20th, and all of us need. We may only be 2% in Black people in this town, but we need to go and celebrate. We need to celebrate the contributions of the Black community and work for justice. Um, and I just want to encourage you, come to Juneteenth. Invite your friends to come to Juneteenth. That it's really important we learn how to celebrate with each other. And we know there's a lot of not yet. We know the situation is really bad, but if they kill our ability to hold on to hope and keep working for change, then they win. That's my sermon for the day. I'm sorry.
I will be there. I'll be there in Natick for Juneteenth. And I will be there at the tent on the Common. And the celebrations are ready to go. And I have my Juneteenth shirt on. And I'm very happy to be a part of Natick for Juneteenth.
Good. Yeah, thank you. And I think you saw I was sharing the screen on the Juneteenth Saturday school. Linda, do you know more about that as
Well,
well?
that school is online. That
Okay.
Saturday school is online.
Oh,
But the
all right.
Juneteenth celebration, of course, will be on the Common
Right.
at that same time, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
I put in a little note that Congregational Church is going to be open as a cooling station and for bathrooms on Saturday. So that's something, if people are hesitant because of, I don't know what the weather's supposed to be like, but if they're hesitant, don't worry. You've got a place to come. We have air conditioned vestry. And I'm actually going to be the person hosting, so you can come say hi to me.
Oh, great. Excellent.
That's
Good.
awesome. Thanks to the FCC. That's really awesome.
Yeah. I think we did, was it last Juneteenth that it was an unexpected heat wave, and we opened the church for that purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a great location right across from the Common. So it was,
Yeah. Brinley, you've been patient with your hand up too.
Yeah, as we're having this conversation and as it got deeper, I just thought maybe I would reaffirm that everyone is okay for this entire recording to be posted on YouTube. I know Natick has started becoming a little divisive sometimes, and we have had people in the past who have accused us of being very one-sided and, woke or whatever the terms are. And I just, since we did go very personal in some of this, I just wanted to make sure that that we ask the group as a whole if we're okay, or if there is at some point where we would rather not have all of it posted on YouTube. So I just thought I'd put that out there in
Yeah.
respect to everyone here communicating.
Thank you for bringing that to the forefront. I guess the way I would feel about it is it strikes me that, yeah, because people have shared personal things, if even one person does not want it public, then I won't post it.
Would it be
you don't
possible?
necessarily, depending on when it is, I can sometimes edit a piece out.
Yeah, I was going to say, would it be possible perhaps to cut out some of the discussion, but still have Linda's presentation? I mean, I think that's important information.
That's true too.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the part I was talking about. I certainly wasn't talking about the first half. I was referencing the last 20 minutes, I guess, or 15 minutes of conversation.
But, to get the information out there, I think is, it's important to have people know what's going on.
Yeah. All right. Does anybody feel strongly about it right now, or you can get back to me? I'll pause at least a day, maybe before posting, so folks can email me or call me if they have concerns. Although, if I don't hear from folks, I probably will post the whole conversation because it's the concerns are concerns that a lot of people have.
I'm fine with it. I'm fine.
You are? Okay, great. Yeah. Well, Linda, I want to thank you for spending time with us. Well, there's so much to be concerned about, but there are ways to fight and bring awareness. So,
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I hope to show up and be a part of your Coffee with a Purpose, just generally.
Yeah, you're always invited. It's the Zoom link is the same each week. So please come back anytime. If I'm not sure I've got your email address, but if you can share that with me or with Deborah and she can get it to me, then I can put you on our mailing list so you see who the speakers are each week.
Good, thank you. I appreciate that. And you all have a wonderful day today. I'm going to say goodbye.
Yep. Right,
thank you so much,
Linda.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Linda, for coming.
Oh, well, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, so we usually close with current events, and we've kind of we were just touching on the biggest one that Friday is Juneteenth and the reading of the Frederick Douglass speech and other events on the Common. Brindley and or others, are there other things that folks want to bring to our attention for the near term?
Well, I'll just say again that I'm counting on Friday as my 15 minutes of fame, and so I am hoping everyone will show up for the reading. No, seriously, last year was my first time sitting through it and listening, and I will say it's really incredibly moving to listen to so many different voices speak that singular voice. And what an incredible speech it is. And so I actually do hope everyone can come, all kidding aside, I actually do hope all of us can come because it really is a moving experience to sit and listen to so many different voices.
Yeah, it absolutely
share the same voice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We've
is that
enjoyed
the
reading
library? Is that at Morris again? Or did they
weather permitting, they do it right outside on the Common.
On the Common, okay.
Yeah,
it used to be in front of the Morris. It's transitioned to the Common.
And the cooling station is open Friday too. Cindy, our minister will be hosting that on Friday, but that cooling station and bathrooms are also available Friday.
Great. Cindy?
Just so as a relative newcomer, I'm going to be actually away for the Frederick Douglass speech, but I did go last year and I really, or maybe I've gone twice. I think it's fantastic. I'm curious about the 4th of July celebrations in Natick, and I guess there's no parade for a second year. Can somebody fill me in as to that? And has the town ever had a public reading of the Declaration of Independence? Usually I'm in a town where they have a very small parade. It's a very small town. Everybody in the town marches in the parade, and then we end up on the common, and they choose a different group. Like they might choose firefighters, and then 4 firefighters will volunteer, or they might choose teachers, or they might choose a local organization of there's a Portuguese community in this place, and so they might choose people from there to do the reading, and and they have a little band, and maybe there's a speech. But just hearing the Declaration of Independence, has that ever been part of Natick tradition? Curious.
No,
I am not aware of it.
not that I remember. Martin's are,
Katie's getting
Martin's are,
attacked by her cat.
Martin's are
70
among
years.
the
Okay, Martin.
resident.
No, as far as I know, it hasn't been done. The entire celebration for the 4th of July has been that 8 to 12 morning block for the parade, and there's been music as part of the parade, but there hasn't been Declaration of Independence or any other speakers that I'm aware of.
It's a big good year for it.
It's a nice idea. Thank
Yeah.
you for bringing that up. I mean, I wonder if there's a way we can get that out there and maybe just do it.
Yeah.
I'd
I mean,
also
there
like
had
to-
been some more energy than usual about reinstituting the parade, although I don't think it's going to happen, but there was a group that was volunteer
So
group
the
that was
parade is
constituted.
definitely not happening this year. It takes a lot longer to put that together than what the group organizing had. But there is a group again. It is Friends of the Fourth. It's natick4th.org. I did put the link in the chat. They are doing a picnic this time with food trucks and ice cream vendors from noon to 4 on the common, with musics. And I think that there is a group organizing the kids' bike parade again with that they're planning that to be at 1:30, which I can say was an enormous amount of fun when I had kids little that wanted to dress their bikes up and do that. But yes, the picnic is on the common. I put the link in the chat, and it's from 12 to 4 on the 4th.
Thank you.
So I wonder
Like
if
to
there
just
are
point
going to
out-
be people at the common, could someone approach them about reading the Declaration?
Sure. And you can go to their website and they have a way to contact them directly. So you can even email them if you want.
Is this Friends of the Fourth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, their website now is natick4th.org, but I put both the Natick Town calendar link in the chat and the Friends of the Fourth link in the chat. And so it can tell you how to do it. They are still looking for volunteers. Their email is July. Hang on, it is July 4th, Natick at Gmail.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's in the chat, so that'll be up on the video.
Yeah.
Well.
I'd like to point out one thing. I don't know if anybody caught Magna Chakrabarty, who invited somebody a couple weeks ago to talk about the Declaration of Independence. And all the published versions, starting from a rogue printer who printed it before the official one, have a period after life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And this guest explained that changes the whole way the first paragraph comes out. Pretty fascinating. So there's the focus on the individual, whereas it was meant to be a syllogism to get to the second part of that sentence, which talks about the whole society being part of this whole happiness thing, not just individual thing. It was fascinating. And none of the early drafts, none of Jefferson's drafts have a period. It was just this printer guy who went off because he wanted to make a buck and get it in the papers first that put this period. And so it'll be very interesting because I just heard this morning that there's a movement to have copies of this declaration given to all 351 towns in Massachusetts.
Maddie!
Wow.
Yeah, it's a fascinating. It's in the first. I think it's about maybe after 10 or so minutes when they get to this place.
Where did you hear this?
On BUR.
Okay.
I
on
put the
point.
links. I put the links right in the chat. You should be able to hear
And
it from the
Meghna
link.
is like, oh, my pulse. She's looking at her watch. She's like, my pulse is racing just from hearing all this stuff.
Wow. Do you know, did that printer, was that a mistake of the period or was that an intentional
So
change?
this woman got curious, and then she started having her graduate assistants tracking down copies of the Declaration all over the world. And I think she's pretty sure it was an intentional addition.
Well, it's interesting. I've been volunteering for several years at the Natick Historical Society, transcribing land deeds from that period of time.
Yeah.
And people's punctuation is very variable,
Yes.
you know?
And it's not clear if it's just like a thing or a real punctuation mark, right?
Exactly.
A
Yeah.
dash or a whatever.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it depends where you are on the page, like because they were writing by hand.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep.
And so sometimes they're continuing like it's yeah. So I recommend that.
Mhm.
Wow.
If you find it moving, which I think I agree, it's very moving to hear these kind of like the Constitution and the Frederick Douglass thing
Yes.
speak read out loud.
Yes.
If you have the opportunity ever on a Wednesday, if you're not at work or not busy, to go to Burlington to the standouts at the ICE Center, they read parts of the Declaration. They read the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, and parts of the First Amendment, and sometimes other parts every single week.
Yeah.
Every single week, and it
Yeah,
is
and it's
always moving.
significant that the speakers, the physical speakers to broadcast that audio while you can hear it as a attendee at the stand-in. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dee Dee. They're intentionally aimed at the ICE facility because they're the ones who need the constant reminder of, come on, guys, this is what our founding documents actually say.
It's actually introducing. Can I say something?
Yeah.
Can
I say something?
You have to come here.
Okay. I've been attending those, and before they do the reading, they actually say, we are going to read these to remind the ICE people what they took. So they said, anyone who works for the federal government in this capacity takes an oath to the Constitution. We are reading these to remind you all which part of the Constitution you're breaking your oath about.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
Very pointedly at those people saying, you are supposed to be respecting this and you're not.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
Mm. Yeah, that's a useful thing to attend. All right. Well,
Can I put my one last plug in?
Yeah.
My one last plug that I've been talking about for a little while now because I feel really strongly about it, and since we're on the conversation of equity, the school committee tonight will be discussing the education plan for Memorial, and part of that discussion is around pre-K and what to do with pre-K in town. And I feel personally, this is my personal opinion, to keep it on that, that it is one of the options they are looking at is to put all 10 sections of pre-K down at Memorial, and I consider that to be completely inequitable and actually fiscally irresponsible. And so I am hoping that people will tune in tonight. They should be back from executive session around 7. And if you are unable to tune in and you want to email or you want some any more information about it, please email me and I'm happy to give you guys anything, tidbits. I'm happy to share my opinion, but also just share the facts so that you can form your own perspective and opinion. But I really believe that they need encouragement to not put all 10 sections of pre-K in the southeasternmost point of Natick, Massachusetts, that will affect the next 3 generations of the town as a whole, requiring everyone with some of our most vulnerable populations, which is our 3 to 5-year-olds, and the parents trying to take care of them, to get in a car and drive through town, potentially up to 20 minutes one way, to drive their kids to a lottery system pre-K that we don't even make room for everyone in town for, which is already inequitable. So I really hope that people will let their voices be heard tonight, that of all of the options, that's the least and last one that they should consider.
Yeah, thank you for reminding us of that, Brinley. Dee Dee?
And You just reminded me, Brinley, tonight at the school committee meeting, there's also a young woman of color who is the daughter of a friend of mine who is going to be speaking at school committee tonight in about Juneteenth and the importance of Juneteenth and the fact that our town is having is having events and related to that. And so if you watch, I know she's very nervous. So if you happen to be there, smile big at her. And if you watch it, it would be great. Like I know that she feels very strongly about this.
She's a wonderful person.
Yeah, she's going to speak during public speak, so I support that, Dee Dee.
All right, good. Well, thanks. It's been a good discussion as usual. And next week, we are not going to have any important non-profit public speaker national issue. I'm going to bore you all to tears with everything we went through to get heat pumps installed here and some various rabbit holes that led me down afterwards. So promises to be worth a chuckle anyway. So,
Hey, thanks,
And
Doug. Look forward to
so
it.
for everyone who is a father, I wish you a happy Father's Day on Sunday, and for all male-leaning father figures, I wish them all a day of thank you for being nurturers. Maybe we'll see you all in the common for the annual Tour to Natick, where we ride our bikes through town. That is again this Sunday. You can still register. It's not too late. It really is a lot of fun. They do a barbecue on the common for it afterwards. And then the big celebration for the opening of Doug Pond, Memorial Beach, Doug Pond is this Saturday. So maybe we'll see you guys down there too.
Awesome.
All right.
Great.
Excellent.
Hey, Doug.
Yeah, Rick. Yeah.
Did you want to invite somebody like Mark Ralston to come to be a resource to you, or do you think that wouldn't be helpful?
No, that would be actually really good. Either him and or Roger Luckman, who was the heat pump coach that helped us out quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll reach out to them. That way they can correct all the incorrect things I say in my presentation.
I'm not asking for that reason. I'm sure he's
No,
been a
Roger
great
was
guy.
very helpful to us as we went through that process.
Yeah.
Great.
All right,
I
cool.
look forward to it.
Enjoy the week,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
And we'll see
Take
you.
care, all.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks.